This time, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Wallingford Inland Wetlands Commission to order. The date is January 3rd. The time is 7:01. Join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Caroline Reynes.
Nick Kern,
Jim Vitale.
Deborah Phillips.
Michael Caruso, Jim Heilman.
Erin O'Hare, environmental planner.
Okay. My review of the minutes, I have a question, so I'm going to table the minutes until next meeting. I want to do a little research before I bring it up. Okay, now the voting members tonight will be Nick, myself, Debbie, Mike, and Jim. Okay, let's see. We're going on to old business, application A18 12.2, 32 Barnes Road. Not ready?
Not ready.
Okay. A18 1.2, 801 North Colony and Beaumont Road, Pattonsbrook. I am the Walrus LLC. You got some
Yes.
input on that?
Yes, the ecologist indicated she wanted to come tonight and have more discussion, and I indicated to her I had met with the Corporation Counsel, Janice Small, and was directed to send the file up to the law department. We got to get this straightened out. There's a lot. I don't know how much you want me to go into it about the bond and the failure of the corridor plan as approved.
Okay, I think unfortunately, Sigmund was here last month, got in late in the game, and I don't know if she was from the beginning to understand exactly what the conditions of approval. It gets sort of complicated. So I think the best thing, as Aaron said, let Janice get this thing straightened out. Okay. No new business at this time, no receipts of new application. Now the reports and communications, everything is pretty much the same. The Kakiwik Conference copies of informational material submitted by Deb were very helpful. I found them very interesting reading. Some things it clears up on some of the things we do on a daily basis. So I think that was very helpful. Number 4, IWWC A22 10.1 and A22 12.3. This is North Main Street Extension in Memoriam Cemetery Association. You want to fill us in, Aaron?
Yes, I put it under reports because I was looking for a little direction from the commission as to which way to, this is sort of a frustrating application. It seemed so straightforward at the start, and then that design failed, so they went back to the drawing board and got a modification to that, and that one has failed. So now they're back to the drawing board, and it's complicated by the contractor he doesn't install it exactly like it's designed, but the design failed anyway. So irrespective of what he did or didn't do. So it's back to the drawing board for the third time. So I guess I didn't know whether to issue a notice of violation for this or to, have them apply for another modification to permit.
Well, we had a brief conversation, and I think the way I felt was that each one of these modifications and design changes were approved by the town engineer. So if they're approved by the town engineer and they failed, I don't know how we could label a notice of violation on unless this thing doesn't get resolved.
Right, so
that's why you're waiting for the next design to come in.
Right, he couldn't make it by last night.
Yeah,
but,
that's fine, but that's what you're waiting for.
Right, I think we can do it administratively as soon as it comes in.
Well, I don't know, if we're gonna do it administratively next time, because
Okay.
everything we've done administratively so far hasn't worked.
All right, I'll let you know when it comes in.
Okay.
It'll be soon.
Okay, as we go down into the violation category, nothing's changed on Old Colony Road. Correct?
No, we will be meeting with them, but it's been just so busy over the holidays. It's been really busy.
You've been talking with them?
Oh, it's before Christmas. I talked to her, the daughter, yeah. And we want to have a sit-down with the town planner and get this rolling. Not wait any longer.
Right. The cease and correct orders on Schoolhouse Road, that's been set for September of this year. The notice of violation remains at 24 Mapleview. And where are we sitting with that? We're coming up with a list of exact violations as it sits today, as it stands? Are we going to have a story, something? We're going to get something on land records with that?
Correct. I didn't sit down with the law department to know if, I actually don't know where the line is between when something goes on the land records or not.
Well, I mean, this has gone on for 10 years or more, and it comes back often to bite us and fight it out. And people agree, and then they don't agree, and then they don't do what they agree to do. So we've got to do something with this.
Do you want to wait one more month, or would you like to act to put it on the land records?
I don't think you're ready to do anything tonight on it. You got to get together and find out exactly what we're asking for the violations to be.
You can get together with the owner, or you mean with the law department?
Well, I think with you to decide, you've got to determine what the situation is out there.
And it's probably changed. Okay.
It's probably changed. I feel strongly that that's the flow where the water flowed originally, and she didn't like it, and she made some modifications, and she's kind of done whatever she wanted, and I think with that, we should change that. Number 5, notice of violation on Quigley Road. Is that still in effect?
It's sitting tight. I got to revisit in the spring to see how many of the plants made it through the winter and so on.
Okay, so it can stay on here without any action.
Correct. It's just, no, maybe for all of them, notice of violation remains. We can do it as a bunch for all of them when we get to that point, which will be, yeah, why don't we do it on this page? We could do the notice of violation remains. And then
What,
for those 1
through 5?
Well, 1, 4, 5 are notices of violation. 1, 4, and 5 are notices of violation, so they all remain. And then 2 and 3 is cease and desist remain,
Well, you have number 9, which is the notice of violation. Oh, no, that's a new one.
2 and 3 are cease and correct order remain.
Everything there can stay, correct?
Right. Right, and number 6 is cease and correct order remains.
We had
Number 6,
number 6.
55.
1 through 6, I'll entertain a motion to maintain the notice of violation on them.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the notice of violations or the cease and correct order remains on all of the violations listed 1 through 6.
Second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, notice 7, 4 Miller Road, Robert and Rhonda Doolittle. Okay, now we've got, I think she handed out a repeat of last month with all the issues that are going on there. And you said they're not available to come tonight, Aaron?
He was going to come tonight, and then Friday I got an email saying he will be out of town till the 5th, January 5th. And he also said, and besides, my engineer couldn't meet with me, too busy, will meet with me, but is too jammed up to meet with me, so.
Okay, so There's quite a lot of activity that's been done out there. So you have the list of what's been done, unpermitted and unauthorized activity. Now, you had a discussion with the law department on this?
Right, because, you know, this has been gone. The first discussion happened in June. I didn't get to issuing the notice of violation till November, but we were in conversation. He was aware it was coming. He was fully aware of what had been done. So, on his property, and because of the spotlight that was shining on the 55 Kondraki property, he knew that townspeople had seen it and that the town planner and I had been out there. We went out there in June and taken photographs, so he knew it was coming. So when I asked the Corporation Counsel, what do you do when somebody just doesn't show up and the next month doesn't show up? How many months do you let that go on before you do something? So she suggested making a finding tonight. What would be appropriate would be for the Wetland Commission to make what's called findings. In other words, say out loud what exactly was contained in the notice of violation that went out on November 29th. Those are the bullet points. The findings would be the bullet points on pages 3 and 4, those bullet points. These were the unpermitted and unauthorized activities conducted in regulated areas by his action. And those bullet points, and I'm going to add another bullet point too, also, which pertains to a drawing I handed to you, Mr. Chairman, tonight, which was I was focusing more for this notice violation on the footbridge area, the stream channel work, all that in the area of the immediate area of the stream. But when you pull back and you look at what else he's done, there was a lot of work along the driveway, which is further to the, further to the south. So I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing more on the notice violation of the stream area. In 1993, Mr. Doolittle got a permit from this commission to put in to actually move a gravel driveway that was supposed to be built over here, and they moved it over here. And they needed a wetland permit because it crossed wetlands. And that was built. Somewhere along the line, that gravel driveway got expanded, got paved, got a turnaround, and there was some other work. So I know you're looking at the colored drawing I made today that showed this expanded area. So I would add another bullet when we get to that, another bullet that expresses that.
Those are the items that are questioned, plus a lot of fill, like you said, out of this. So what was the next thing she said? We have to have a ruling.
So we express the findings, and then you make an order. What order could be many things, but one order could be to remove all unpermitted activities. Well,
I think that's the one that we should have.
Or other orders that you can think of.
Maybe that'll catch his attention.
Oh, and
Any
maybe,
questions?
if I may say, remove all unpermitted activities and maybe add a condition and contact the environmental planner to discuss how you go about removal.
Okay. Any discussion on that order? Nick?
I personally would like to have him present when if you could make up the list of things that he did that he wasn't supposed to do, so we have something to look at and question the applicant for each one of these, so they can be addressed instead of this back and forth. He's not here tonight. You haven't made the list, so I feel comfortable if we waited another month, get Mr. Doolittle here, you make up the list, and then we can hash it out and go forward with it. I don't want to prolong it any longer than it already has, but this is not the time of year to start excavating out around brooks and rivers and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's just my opinion. I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel, as far as what to do. But he's not here, so why don't we table it till next month if it's okay with the chairman?
I'm not totally against it. He's blown us off 2 months in a row now. That's the only thing that upsets me a little bit. I thought that if we sent him a notice to remove everything, but before you do, you check with Aaron. Aaron could fill in the information is. I'm not against waiting another month either, So it's whatever the rest of the commission wants to do. Deb,
We can wait another month, yeah.
Mike,
Give 30 days minimum, that's it.
Jimmy?
I agree with the 30 days.
Okay, got another 30 days.
All right.
But just so the straight, you're going to add to page 3 and 4, a couple of more items, or you're going to put out a one-page notice of what the bullet points are that the problem with this site is.
And I will send him a certified letter about this meeting and say, this is what happened at the meeting, and the findings and the order will occur at the next meeting, so make sure you're there at the next meeting.
That's fine, too. Okay. Now, we get into item 8. This is a cease and desist order for IWWC application A 23 2.2 and A 23 9.1. 86 Barnes Road and 950 North Main Street, extension Wallingford.
Good evening. My name is Vincenzo Peretta. I don't have any attorney with me or engineer with me
Just
tonight.
name for the record. Name.
Name Vincenzo Peretta. I only have my wife here, Lisa Ann, with me, Peretta, for 25 years, my support, and that's it. I understand there's some issues we need to address, and I'm here before the commission.
Well, from what I've gathered from Aaron, is that you failed drastically to meet the conditions of the original approval. Things like the silt fence not towed in. You cut back too far, too close to the wetlands. You cut down vegetation. You didn't notify her that this project was starting. The wetlands up along North Main Street, somehow I thought they were larger than what you left there. Now there's a sidewalk which wasn't on the print, I don't believe. Is that correct, Aaron?
No, it was on the print, but there was no grading or filling associated with it, and now Mr. Peretta wants to grade and fill to construct that sidewalk.
So the point is, there's so many things, and of course, we had a heavy rain, and between the heavy rain and your open site, apparently your neighbors got loaded with mud and silt and so on and so forth. So the question here is tonight, and whether we revoked your permit, your wetland permit, or how we're going to resolve this issue.
I agree. So with that there, you have every option to revoke it if you wish. But it's not what I'm here for. I'm here to,
Well,
do the right thing.
well, what have you corrected this? How close are you to the original permit to calculate, or the original conditions of approval?
Well, the silt fence has been towed in, and there's been silt, hay bales put behind the far corner of the property for extra protection.
That's
Hay
primarily
bales.
it?
Yeah. So there's been other stuff, other silt fence has been towed in, but as far as the remediation of some other issues, I think that's for, the sidewalk, the taking down of a couple trees there, and stuff like that, which in my eyes are kind of border, right on the line of limits of clearing, but it's not for me to decide that.
How about the neighbor? What do you think about the neighbor?
I believe, the neighbor got flooded out with 6 inches of rain. I do have concern for my neighbors. I did 19 years ago, too, when we started next door, and we fixed that channel. Unfortunately, the channel did overflow with 6 inches of rain. We have pictures also, and I guess it did breach between the auto lot and the go-kart property. It did breach over there. It did overflow. along with the channel that runs parallel with their parking lot that runs at the end, at the backside of our property on the 929 North Main Street side, which that channel did overflow in 3 areas. The center of the channel did overflow by the first dog leg in the channel, which can be noticed on the current plans and old plans. And unfortunately, there's a lot of water that came down. Well, I understand silt went in there too, brown soil. I understand that. I'm not to say that silt fence would have stopped the soil, the silt from going in, yet, yay or nay. It would have helped, but I think it would have toppled over anyways, over the silt fence if it was there anyways, just for the amount of water that we received in the amount of time that it fell.
What comments have you got, Aaron?
One comment is more of a bookkeeping thing, just to say that this is a cease and desist order hearing, that the commission's required to hold a hearing within 10 days. And so this is the hearing, as opposed to the other matters on our agenda, which are just regular meeting items, all the other violations. This is an actual hearing. So what that means, it means a few things. One thing, it means people in the audience can
Well,
make
I've
comments.
asked you, that's fine, we'll get to that point, but I asked you, what's your comments on this?
Okay, well, the letter of the cease and desist order went out in your packet Friday night. And it's quite lengthy, and it's the actual typing was 8 pages. And the reason it's so long is there were a lot of different things going on that happened during that storm, a lot of different violation items, non-compliance items. So that's why it's so long, because I wanted to catch them all. The most noticeable thing was, of course, the flooding. The tremendous amount of sediment ended up off-site, particularly on the property, the Holiday Cinema property, that property which is 970 North Colony Road. You were sent photographs of that. I sent out, 10 photographs. I've taken many more.
All right, yeah, but that, we all know there's very much, we get to that, but what else is going on with this site now? We know it overflooded and flooded the parking lot with silt. Have you checked and see, has the silt fence been put back?
Yes,
Is the hay bales there?
I was out there twice since the big flood. I was out there last Friday taking pictures. I have more pictures. And yes, Mr. Peretta had informed me. He went out there, I don't know, within a day or two, and did put up the extended silt fence, towed it in, put on the hay bales, got them snug there on the northwest corner of his property, between his property and the cinema property.
Thank you.
Aaron is.
Am I doing that? It's something to do with maybe I'm too
Maybe it's
close.
the microphone.
Maybe I'm too
I'm
close.
sorry.
Sorry.
Got the hay bales.
Yeah, so he installed the hay bales real good in the northwest corner, and then continued the silt fence all the way down. I'm not sure if all this required silt fence is in as of today. There is a bunch of strings of silt fence up and around the wetlands that were altered, significantly altered. So they're kind of, I don't know why they're not in a giant ring. They're kind of 3 separate lines of silt fence. Last I saw, the sediment piles were not, he was directed to put silt fence around the sediment piles, or giant stockpiles. I don't think that was done yet. At least it wasn't by Friday.
Hang on a minute.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
very good.
That was the problem. Okay. I think that's all that was done. There was a little bit of grading done in the northwest corner, bring it up a little bit, because the water was traveling off the northwest corner and down that side slope to the cinema.
Wasn't there some orange construction fence supposed to go up?
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying what Mr. Peretta has done in the last week to
But is the
rectify
fence,
this.
is the fence up there, the orange
No,
fence?
the orange fence isn't up yet because frankly, there's not a lot to protect. It's gone. I mean, so it's going to have to, I don't know what we're going to do with that. I mean, it was supposed to, Commissioner Kern asked for an orange silt fence around the whole thing so that workers wouldn't stray in there or put lumber down in there or back equipment up into there, and it's all cleared out. So there's not a whole lot left to protect. There are about 20 little spindly trees in the wetland at different places, but there's tire tracks in between them and so on, and that whole patch of Phragmites is gone. Now, some people could say, well, that's good that the Phragmites is gone, but it'll just grow back because its rhizomes are in the soil. I saw them, so it's going to come back. But also, Mr. Peretta hired a wetland scientist to do a detailed report, which this commission approved. And in that detailed report, Mr. Lord, David Lord, had a very specific way he was going to cut and then treat the Phragmites in a certain way. So, you know, there's a lot of work to be done on this property.
Well, okay. All right, we'll come back to this. Commissioners, any questions?
I just have one question for you. When you were explaining to us kind of what had happened, you seemed to mention that there were just a couple of trees on the line that were cleared. But in the report that we have, it says that a dozen trees were cut. Is that how many trees were actually cut? Do you know how many trees were actually cut?
There was 2 trees probably with a 12-inch round radius, maybe double trees. One was right on the wetland side, line of the side of the channel that runs parallel with the side of the channel. Mm-hmm. The other tree was more or less up on North Main Street extension, and it's sitting there over the guardrail there, next to the guardrail, that will be, it's going to be moved, of course, I believe now after we have to get another permit to do the sidewalk. There's a guardrail that has to be moved, sidewalk has to be gone in, and yes, I was premature on maybe an area of 30 feet of 2 to 3 inch, maybe 6 inch wide
So
trees.
just to clarify, so you say that there were 2. Were the rest the smaller trees, or
Yes,
what happened
smaller
to the
trees.
rest? Okay, but you would say there were a dozen trees that were cut.
If you want to call them trees or brush, I mean, that's however you want to call them.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Aaron, Mr. Kern was concerned about the orange fence around the site. He was also concerned about being a good neighbor, and from the pictures you show us, it looks like the abutting parking lot to the cinema and behind the cinema has still got mud silk in it. Out of good faith, don't you think that it should be cleaned up, or maybe hire a street sweeper to come in there and take the bulk of it out of there so that the patrons that work in the cinema are not going to be tracking it into the cinema? I mean, I'm more concerned about being a good neighbor and cleaning the mess up that's out there. What are your intentions to do with that?
You know, to be quite honest with you tonight, I haven't even thought about it because I spoke with Aaron, 3 phone calls, correct? 3 phone calls we had? That's about it. She made, she told me about the Mr. LaFlamme, I believe, was the contact person, owner. I met him years ago, I believe, when we started the North Main Street Extension site. And I haven't been contacted by anybody. So if I was contacted by anybody to go and have a physical walk, of course I would. I'd go look at catch basins, would have gone and looked at silt or this or that. I'm not going to lie to you and say I didn't go on my own and take my own pictures. But I'm anticipating a phone call, which I haven't received.
Well, there's 6 of us here, Vinny, that have pictures of it.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious what's going on
Correct.
back there. I mean, the first thing I would do is want to keep him happy because of the incident.
Right. And true, Mr. Kern. And one of the main things that I was talking with Aaron today and before is I just want to know what I'm going to be responsible for and I did ask Aaron kind of, and I will ask the commission, am I responsible for the actual channel breaching and overflowing, or am I responsible for just for the silt that came off of the 86 Barnes Road site? And I'm just looking for clarification on that. I don't know if I can really take responsibility for a breach in a channel that is upgrade, even though the stream pitches downgrade, towards Route 5. I understand over there's a lot of silt that came over. More or less, it was a breach in the actual berm, which is made of sandy material, and of course, they couldn't hold up at that height, being 6 to probably 7 feet and toppling over with water. I'm just asking.
My intention.
Where's my responsibility start and end with my neighbor? And I would love to walk with my neighbor.
My understanding was when we gave you permission to develop the site, you had an engineer on board that was going to design it so there was nobody was going to be altered with your project. You were going to save the trees that need to be saved. You were going to dike the dam or rip-rap the dam or whatever needed to be done so that your neighbor wouldn't be encroached on with silk and mud, and it wasn't his fault the rain came. It's obvious that you got more rain than you expected. I believe the first priority would be to go over and either meet with him or get the machines over there and clean the mess up, get it back on your side of the fence. I'm just derogatory saying the fence. That would be the first important thing. And then from there, you need to stabilize it. You need to get your engineer back online, David Lord or whoever you've hired, to redesign this so that this doesn't happen again. We're going into the winter months now with rain, snow, sleet, whatever, and there's still a chance that we're going to get more of this. Now, in some of the pictures I see, the erosion's coming from your developed site already that's there. So that all that water's barreling down into the slot, going down to the lower section there.
Correct.
So it's a no-brainer.
And that's what I'm asking, and I was asking, where does my responsibility start and stop? Does it start with 86 Barnes Road water and stop with that and clean that area? Or does it go all the way up the channel where it breached and overflowed, where I'm sure, Tommy K's parking lot was flooded out. I get water from North Main Street Extension and from above the old Calgany came down across the road onto the site also. I understand what you're saying, and I am not saying I'm not responsible for anything. All I'm looking for is a little clarity, and I believe I could probably talk with the neighbor and we can reach something there.
We're not here to design your project, develop your project. You're here in front of us to get us to approve of what you think was going to be safe and caused the project to go forward. It's
Right.
obvious because of the weather, it didn't work. So now she wants to do a cease and desist, pull your application, your permit. You need to get back in touch with your engineer or David Ward, soil
Right.
scientist, whatever, and start from scratch and get this all rebuilt and back to where it belongs. But I believe personally, the first priority would be to stabilize that channel down there so this won't happen again. Don't use sandy soil to make a dike. Either use riprap or sandbags or whatever. You've been in the industry long enough to know what you need to put there.
I understand that. So you're saying that I need to go onto somebody else's property and stabilize something?
Did I say that?
No, I'm not sure that we're talking about the same location. I'm not arguing with you, trust me.
Are you in charge of the channel all the way down?
Not down to, I'm in charge of the channel to where my property ends, on 929 North Main Street, which ends behind the go-kart place and the backside of the job lot or out-of-lot parking lot.
What about the south side? How far down do you go there? You go right to where the road is, right? The old Barnes Road.
I go to from North Main Street Extension, in between Barnes and 86 Barnes and
In the center of
Kurt.
the parking lot, the driveway for the parking lot.
Right.
You're doing great, Nick, but there's one question. Who owns the ground that the channel is on?
I own the ground.
Deb, you all set? You You all set? Don't lose it. Go ahead, Deb.
I think it's important to do some cleanup because it came from your silk fencing not being properly installed. So to be a good neighbor, I think we need some cleanup.
I agree with that there. I agree with doing the cleanup there.
Mike?
The only thing I'm going to point out is that with or without the rain, the conditions of the permit weren't followed.
Correct.
So the rain doesn't matter at this point. It's the permit was never followed to begin with.
Right.
That's the bigger issue, unfortunately.
Jimmy?
I do know that there are 3 storms from the Pacific to the West Coast, the Pacific Ocean into the West Coast and across the continent currently coming this way. So in light of that, although it's supposed to continue to get colder, I would say the first priority is to stabilize this situation that exists here so that it cannot happen again. I would put that as the first priority, and coinciding with that, a cleanup of what has flushed onto that property, all that silt. But again, my primary concern is this project should go no further until there is complete stability of everything here. This stability should have been established, as was just stated, prior to this event. It's got to be done now, and it's got to be done immediately so that this doesn't happen again over the next couple of weeks. That's it.
Okay. Aaron pointed out this is a public hearing, so if there's any comments from the public, I'll take them now. Name and address for the record. There or standing, whichever way you want. Just make sure you speak into the mic, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Into the mic.
My name, my wife always says I talk too loud, so I didn't even think.
Not for this group. We're all old and hard of hearing.
I know the feeling. I have hearing aids, too. My name is Bobby LaFlamme. I live at 218 Coon Road in Southbury. My son and I own our family business, which is the Wallingford Cinema, and we've been there for almost 20 years, and we believe we're a good neighbor with, what we do for the community and the things we do with the theater, and that's why I was glad to hear that the opening remarks of my neighbor was that he wanted to do, the right thing, but we never heard a word from him when we were inside the cinema cleaning mud, which made it inside the cinema, and there was a lot of mud. I was actually seeing the amount of mud that came. It was just like sheet flowing right off the property with nothing to stop it. And I couldn't actually believe it. And then I said to myself, I'm so conscious with us, with the weather, and as you get older, you check things like the weather all the time, and sometimes they exaggerate it, but I don't think what was coming was exaggerated. And like the obituaries, you check the same thing, but you always do the right thing. You do your due diligence. And if you have to do something and you just completely disregard it so it impacts the property the way we did, where the storm drains are filled with mud and the cinema has mud in it, and all of which we had to deal with, and not a word from our neighbor, nothing. I know he said that I should have gone to him. Well, that's not the way I treat my neighbor, and I just don't think anyone does that. And the last thing I want to do is to hurt anyone or see anyone slowed down, because development is good. But I really think that until this site is stabilized with the amount of mud, and I think we sent Aaron videos of what happened that day, and it was just reckless. And I think whatever needs to be done, whether a review of the plan, and if, as you said, the one silt fence wouldn't have held it back even though it wasn't up, so we'll never know. Maybe a double silt fence, maybe hay bales, double hay bales, whatever the engineer says. But until all that's done, I think that it shouldn't proceed forward because it's too scary. I mean, right now, we have storm drains that are filled with mud, so what's going to happen on the next storm? We have to find a way to get all that mud out. And never mind the mud that's all over the parking lot. And if you've seen the videos, it was unbelievable. So I just hope that what we're hearing right now from my neighbor is true and that he's going to do the right thing, because I really think we need it at the cinema. We struggled with COVID and we made it through. And, you know, this is the last thing we needed, you know, to clean mud out of the cinema and everything else at the busy time of the year when we normally do business. So anything the commission can do to help us, I would greatly appreciate it. My son and I would, our family. Thank you.
I think the commission's power is limited, other than show how concerned we are for a good neighbor policy. The legal side of it, I can't tell you about, but applications won't flow freely if you've always got a concern if something like this could happen again.
Yes, sir.
Now, we still haven't got to the point of where we are in your application, but if the brook channel is on my property, and 86 Barnes Road, did that always flow into the same channel? I don't think so. But apparently now it flows into that channel. It breached that back corner, and that's where the mud came from, going into that channel. Now, if that's the elevation of your map, your application, it sounds to me like you got to modify the channel going out across your property behind the theater. Whether if that's what we approved to go that way, shame on us, that corridor needs to be enlarged possibly. It needs to be opened up. It needs to be riprap. It needs to be higher, all kinds of things. Fortunately, this is probably the last, 86 is probably the last site to develop on that water course coming from up in Barnes Park North. I think most everything up there, unless they break down and make some more impervious surface, has been developed. So the channel's on your property. If it needs to be expanded, I mean, yes, you need a permit, but I'm sure the permit's not going to be held up other than the fact that make sure the channel is big enough. Now, with that being said, where are we in this whole thing? I think it sounds like one of the commissioner feels that the cease and desist stays in effect, or is it a cease and correct on trying to get this thing straightened out, or trying to get to this? This is coming back to where we have jurisdiction. How do we get this application back in line? Go ahead, Aaron.
Just about the cease and correct. This is a cease and desist. Cease and correct we've only done twice. Once was a sewer line broke in a wetland, and once was the bridge in 55 Kondraki, the driveway crossing fell in.
That's okay.
So it's an emergency. So this is a cease and desist.
But you're going to tell them to do some corrective work.
Oh, totally. And we've
So
got
that
2 pages
comes
of
under
directions.
the cease and desist?
It's under the cease and desist. It says, Mr. Paredes, to cease all development action and not do anything on the site except as directed in this document that went out with all those bullet points. Now, you can add more bullet points. You can take some of these away. These are, that's your function. I did this. This notice goes out. You can reaffirm what I wrote and all the bullet points I put in here, all the directives. You can add more. You can subtract some. Now, at the end of it, though, I wind up and say you have another alternative or an additional action alternative. You can suspend or revoke the permit. We've never done that since I've been here 19 years, and I don't think it was ever done by this commission. There's so many things that non-compliant with this permit that it rises to that level, but I just wrote as my second to last bullet point in here on page 8, should the commission not act to suspend or revoke the permit, I'm suggesting I direct 4 things that he's got to do to make this a better project. Because it dawned on me that this is this floodplain. This is a floodplain with that stream and the wetlands, and they go back and forth. The floodplain goes like this, like an accordion. It's not static. So we were protecting the wetland from the dirt from his site But guess what? The wetland had its own ideas to go this way too. So it goes back and forth.
What did the map say? What did the plan say? Which way was the flow going to go off of this site from the map that was submitted? Was it going to go to the south?
No. Today, before he cleared it, it was going toward the wetlands. After he
Which
was
wetlands are you referring to?
the wetlands that
The
are along
north?
the stream.
Huh?
The wetlands that are along the stream in the photographs, you know, the
To the north?
to the north, yes.
between
yes,
the two properties.
Yes, the big wetlands, yes, not the little tiny one up by North Main Street. So
But that's where the flow of water was going, to that back corner.
it has for
Better.
years, it has gone that way, forever, well, for years, decades gone that way, okay?
Or did it mainly sit because it was all sand until a lot of fill got dumped in there? It was recharging right in the ground right there.
Oh, yeah, sure, some of it was going down, sure, it's very sandy
So
soil.
now it's not recharging in the ground, and now it headed to the stream.
It's both things. Obviously, we've gotten unprecedented, record-breaking amounts of rain this year and this fall especially. So the groundwater is saturated. Everything's sitting on top. You see puddles all over town. Things are not draining, okay? This site, even though it's so sandy, it's
Yeah,
not
but Aaron,
draining.
we know all that. I'm trying to get to the point of where do we take this gentleman's project here? What's going to happen now? What do we do to get this thing to move along? We stand still until these 4 points are corrected? Do we put a cease and desist until everything is recorrected and you review it?
The cease and desist has been issued. I would like you to affirm it before the end of the evening tonight, to affirm the cease and desist. I would like you to affirm all these directives that I've put in here. One of the directives was to contact the owner of the cinema property. That's halfway down page 7.
Well, that's not,
Was immediately contact the owner of 970 North Colony Road regarding blah, blah. So
Yeah.
that was one of the directives, but there's...
okay, but now that's a directive, but that's not the 4 bullet points on page 8. I'm sure he's going to contact the gentleman sitting next to him.
Okay. So you're saying regarding my second to last directive, which was, should the Wetland Commission not suspend or revoke, hand in all these 4 things with the arrows. Those 4 things I want handed in. A dewatering plan, okay? We didn't think we needed a dewatering plan. Guess what we do?
But this, if we satisfy those 4 questions, he continues on with his project?
Well, it's up to the commission. The cease and desist would hold until you release it. So he
All
would
right,
do-
so, but you have quite a few points here besides those 4. You're looking for him to do all these things that are on your report? You are hereby directed to, starting on page 6?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, you want him to do page 6, 7, and 8?
Yes. Unless there's something you object to, you can remove any of those bullet points.
I wouldn't say I object to any of them, but I'm afraid that if the water is going to flow into the stream needs to be enlarged.
Okay, good. Thank you for circling back to that. The problem is, I can understand what you're saying and how you're thinking. The problem is, and this is a photograph I took last week, it all narrows down between the cinema and the go-kart. It narrows down into a very narrow channel and a small culvert under Route 5.
Yeah, but that's the state's problem. I can't, how are you going to blame the cinema for that?
I'm
Because
not-
if you're telling me that we can't enlarge the stream because we're going to flat out Route 5.
If you enlarge the stream, it'll get the water to this channel faster, to the ditch, quote-unquote, ditch
And if
faster.
you don't enlarge it, it's going to overflow its banks and hit the cinema.
They've already they revamped that from Route 5 all the way back up. That whole channel's been stripped and cleaned and redeveloped.
Yes.
It goes across the street down into behind Robinson's place.
Yes, it goes into, I don't know, I didn't measure it, a 2-foot culvert. Here it is. Took a picture of it last week. I can show you.
So-
It all narrows down. It funnels down into this 2-foot wide culvert.
But there's a lot of storage in the meantime, but so
Sounds to me like
you don't need the stream to enlarge the stream to handle the new water that's being increased there?
I think you're on the right track, meaning I think an engineer, hydraulic engineer should look at this as to what should we do with this floodplain?
Yeah,
How do we
I agree.
hold it back?
This needs an engineer to look at it. You're asking very important questions. We don't have answers to those.
No, but it's not on your report here that says that stream has to be adjusted.
That's why she suggested we could add to this or take things away.
That's what I was trying to get to, Jim.
Bingo.
Okay.
Let's go.
So, I mean, something's got to be addressed because you're going to pave 86 Barnes Road, and if the water's going in the same direction, I don't see any better situation going on there, unfortunately.
Let me just clarify. If he is allowed to build his storage units and pave, it's going into a catch base, it's going down in the ground in his giant infiltrator he's going to build, and some of it's going into the catch basins on Barnes Road. So it's not going into the wetlands. It's a little bit, a teeny bit.
I would think that would be a good place to put it because there's nothing but sand and gravel underneath that site.
So put what? Good place to put what?
There's water to go down below the blacktop.
Oh, yeah, and we approved
Either
this.
infiltrators or dry wells or whatever you want to call
Sure,
them.
this commission approved that, planning and zoning approved it that way, yes, it's approved, yes. But we're not there yet, it's gonna be a while till he installs that unit.
If I may say something.
Yes, sir.
The finished plan is, I'm not too sure, elevation 96 or 98. It's level. The parking lot is level. The catch basins are all, pitched 6 inches up or down to collect the water on the pavement, going to an underground detention basin that's in the front of the property on Barnes Road extension. Concrete galleys, I think there's 125 of them. I don't know the calculation, the volume, but that's all been done by engineers and approved and everything checked. That area that we're talking about in the corner, that wetlands area, where the parking lot ends, there is a catch basin there.
In the final plan.
In the final plan. Now, of course, we'll have grading and stuff like that. We have our limits of clearing. Maybe we just get a permit or something to go into that area where there is that old breach there that was corrected 20 years ago that needs to be addressed now, that seems to be overflowing into the channel, and we just maybe pipe that area back into the catch basin to take it into the detention basin, slowly, at a certain elevation. I'm not an engineer, but sometimes things make common sense on the site and you bring things forward to change plans and stuff like that. I don't know if that's an option. I can run that by the engineer's office.
What?
So it's,
I'm just speaking out loud, just thinking out loud. What if there's a temporary sediment basin in that corner? So it gets down to the sand.
mhm.
And what water comes off of that site will go in there until you get further with your galley system. I don't know if that makes sense.
It is the lowest corner. That corner is the lowest corner.
But
And over
no
the-
depression, and is it cut, is got fill on top of it?
There's one area where there's like a maybe 12 by 12. You'll see it's in a round area that is a complete round circle that there is a depression there. It was made prior,
Well, maybe it needs to be 24 by 24.
24 by 24.
Something different right now.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I was listening, and what I was wondering is if, this isn't the biggest storm we'll ever see. It was a good-sized storm, but with the idea that zero runoff comes off of that property and doesn't come on mine, I don't know if the original engineering design contemplated the water that we're referring to, or the amount, or the size of the storm, which isn't the biggest storm that we've ever had or might ever had. Maybe the the suggestion that was made, if we get a peer review or something of the engineering contemplating all the issues, whether it's the ditch that my neighbor owns or everything else, just to make sure that this doesn't happen, because, you know, who wants to go through this again? This is just terrible. And I think just to err on the side of caution, I don't want to hold this project up, but I think if someone reviews this with fresh eyes, taking in all the information that happens, we might, you know, solve it to prevent it again, and none of us will have to deal with this again in this nice new year.
Well, I believe the town engineer looked at it somewhere.
Yeah.
You just got a whole bunch of crazy things that took place here.
Maybe
You're right.
all of
Is
them
this
weren't.
is
Yeah.
this the storm to end all storms?
No.
No. I just, I mean, when the property was covered either with dump truckloads of material or crazy things, I mean, it seemed to not have a problem. All of a sudden, this has had a problem. You've had water before, but you haven't had mud, correct?
Well, yeah, we've had water, never to the level that came, because we're not only dealing with the water we had to deal with, we were dealing with it to come off. If you watched the video, it was massive. The dumpsters, if you could imagine, with the weight inside, floated right away. It just floated right out of the parking lot.
I had them in my own place in Meriden. I had
So you know, yes.
But I'm talking about prior to this storm, in years past, you've had flooding in that parking lot.
Nothing that came to the level of this. I've never seen anything that breached that. It would be water, if anything, but
Yes.
never a level like just with sheer mud and water coming from his. All I want is zero runoff from his property.
I remember Route 5 before they corrected the culvert there. Route 5 was flooded in this course. I know Lowe's at one time came in for a permit to put their superstore behind you on Mr. Paretta's property.
Right.
So there's been a lot of kicking around on this site with water, and the water coming off of Barnes Park North. And your guys are right there where the original wagon shop was for Barnes Orchard. There was a concrete pit that they fed a concrete vessel that they fed the horses water out of, and wagon shop and wagon wheels. Quite a bit of history right there, unfortunately. It's all
But if
gone.
you could imagine mud getting in the cinemas, through the fire-rated doors, coming down the steps and everything, that's what happened. That was just intense.
I believe he wants to talk to you on getting that straightened out. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's one plus. The rest of the stuff, Aaron, do you want to just hold this intact till those 2 pages are done, till you're satisfied with those 2 pages are done? You said some of the things are done already.
There's some things, anywhere I use the word immediately should be done immediately if they haven't been already. I have a feeling some of these things won't, like the whole David Lord thing's going to take time to get Mr. Lord. He's busy to get him out there and everything. That might take a little bit of time.
Aaron, I don't know how to solve this problem if you keep throwing this, it's a David Lord situation, or if it's this situation. Either it stops completely.
Oh, no, I think his project should stop completely. Yes, absolutely.
It's going to stop completely.
Except for the directives. He has to go
Yes.
out there and move silt fences and do things maybe.
Okay.
You know, and,
So that's where we are then.
yes,
The
and
cease and desist until these things are corrected.
yes, and submitted, not to wait till the next meeting, as they get done, to submit them to me, you know, as soon as some of these things, like the figures, I ask for surveys, after wetland report, submit to me, and I think tonight we've added a new question, because Mr. Peretta brought it up. He wants to enlarge that stream, and he wants to maybe drain
No,
a
he
certain
didn't- he
pocket.
didn't-
No, I never
He
said
didn't bring it
enlarge
up.
it.
I brought it up.
Oh, okay, but his idea was to drain, there's a ponded pocket of stream. It's like an oxbow of the old stream, and he wants to drain it, sort of. So, to prevent it from sailing over to the cinema. Now, I'm not saying that that's a ridiculous idea, it just has to be looked at, you know?
I don't think the stream ever naturally took a 90-degree bend in that corner. Right, Nick? That flowed right across, straight,
Right, straight across.
before all the development there, before it was a Kmart.
Well,
So where are we, Aaron? What's the answer here?
I
If
just
I
had an
may.
idea to bring that 90-degree bend closer to his units. That's one idea. There's plenty of room, there's a lot of room there. Or there's a lot, I don't know exactly if it's enough room, but, okay.
If I may interject to it, Aaron, I know you'd like to meet all these orders, and I have no problem doing them. Some of them are pertaining to, I don't want to say, Mr. Lord, this, that, maybe some new plans or some, some more engineering done. We'll just call it that, surveying, plans made. But I think to continue forward, I should be allowed to just go back to the original plan, take that, continue what I'm doing, do some of this extra stuff that involves the water leaving the property in this corner that we're talking about. Be allowed to go in there and at least excavate something. Because if you give me a cease and desist order and you want me to meet all these other orders, it's going to take time. And a lot of the work isn't going to get done. I mean, we're going to clean up, meet with the neighbor, but I want to just expedite this and move along also.
Well, you expedited it a little too quickly.
I
To begin
understand
with.
that. I understand that.
So if all the requirements were done and the water overflowed,
Correct.
I think it would be unfortunate for your neighbor, but you lived up to your part of the deal. In this case, not so.
I understand. So then,
So I don't know how much you can go back and continue what you're doing without getting some of these other things done. But Aaron, you're the person that's got to determine here on what he needs to get done before, so he can continue.
Okay,
I mean, if you want to use the plan that he has, we haven't decided on changing the plan, have we, anybody? No.
He hasn't followed the plan, so why would we change it? We gave you the plan, you told us this is what you were gonna do, you didn't do any of it. It looks like a battlefield out there, you got brush piles and everything everywhere. In good faith, you haven't done anything you said you were gonna do. So this little incident, what you didn't do, just added to this incident. So I'm not one to hold up production, but I don't even see a spot on there you could start dumping fill you need for around your buildings. I think you should come to a screaming halt, readjust your print, or have your engineer readjust your print to address the water issue first. And I don't think going down into that left-hand corner where there's sand and making a swale to catch the water coming off that lot is the answer to this. You need to address the whole stretch there so that your neighbors aren't going to have any more water. Whether that means trenching that, I don't know what it's going to mean. I'm not the engineer. That's your, but you haven't, in good faith, Vinny, I don't see anything you said you were going to do, you were going to do.
you're correct. You're
And-
correct. I need to start over. That's what I'm asking for.
Well, my opinion is you should start over. Stop where you are, get the neighbors happy, clean that mess up, and then go from there. Either talk to David Lord or whoever your engineer was that told you this is going to work. Because if you look at your pictures, it didn't work on your first project. But the erosion you got coming off your first project. And I know that those things happen and they need to be addressed. From what I can see, that hasn't been addressed. It's just gotten deeper and deeper and deeper. So I don't want to be the bad guy, but I don't think
Oh, no.
it's, you know,
With the original plan, stop the erosion. Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Go back to the original plan, start with that there, and continue forth with some of these orders and stuff. But if it's going to hold me back from doing a sediment pond, a temporary sediment pond or something in that lower corner, is it helping the project? Or can I do that, is what I'm saying.
is that the answer?
It's a temporary answer. Of course, an engineer has to overlook everything.
I don't think it's even a Band-Aid. You can't tell just how much percolation is going to go down there in that sandy corner. I wouldn't want you to disturb that sandy corner, waste your time on doing that, and it doesn't work. And then it overflows again, and he's scooping the mud out of his cinema.
Agreed then.
So I would concentrate on cleaning that, readjusting and fixing that waterway to get the water on your property, to stay on your property, and then come back to us, and then with either a new print or we'll activate the old print. If if it's gonna work, if it's done the way it's supposed to be done. The said fence is supposed to be toe-nailed, you know, it's, but unfortunately, because this is the time of year you probably can get Phil to put on the site to do your project, I don't feel comfortable doing it, because any fill you bring in there is gonna be sitting on your neighbor's back door. I'm just 1 out of 5, so you.
No, I agree. You know, I'm not going to argue. You know,
So that's where we're at. Where are we at? We're at, you're starting over and getting this thing straightened out right from the beginning.
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I need to clarify something. Commissioner Curran, you said a lot of things, but one of the things you just said was you would like him to fix the waterway? Could you be more specific? Because if he's going to tinker with anything, he needs a wetland permit for any kind of fix. So what?
He's got to address the waterway behind the building on his property. He has already admitted that waterway is his property. He needs to either, I don't want to say what he needs to do. He needs to talk to the engineer. If it was me, I would go down deeper and I'd rip-wrap it with a shot rock or something so the water wouldn't erode it and it would flow the way it's supposed to flow. If there's a problem with that, he needs to redesign his project.
Okay,
It's
so
a real
he needs
simple
to,
fix here. We don't need to tell him he can do just part one of the plans he came in front of us with. We're telling him what's important that needs to be done now.
right, but what I think he should be directed to do is come up with a plan for that fix, not to just go out there and fix it. Come up with a plan that can be reviewed. If he wants to widen that channel, stream channel, if his engineer said, yeah, it's a good idea, let's widen it 3 feet, or whatever he says, put a berm on it, or whatever the engineer comes up with, that has to be reviewed and permitted.
Well, that's nice if you want to be sitting in the cinemas when we have the next big rain, because we're waiting for his engineer to design a print. I think he's been in the industry long enough to know what needs to be done. And that's why I mentioned either bank it, sandbag it, rip-wrap it, whatever. It needs to be fixed. That's the priority here, is to fix it. Whether you give him permission or he has an engineer design what he's going to do, that's fine.
Maybe the engineer can come up with a temporary emergency fix, not a permanent fix, maybe a temporary emergency fix.
I don't want to see a temporary emergency fix, but I'm just 1 of 6. I want it fixed and to be fixed right. Because from the corner of the building to County Street has been all dredged, and they took all the garbage and crap out of that, and they opened that waterway right up. So it barrels down through there, goes across North County Road, down by Neil Robinson's, and it ends up in the Quinnipiac River. Then I watch all the bottles and cans float by my house, because I'm on the Quinnipiac. So, but I'm just saying, I don't want to see him waste a month or 2 with an engineer trying to come up with an emergency fix. Get in there and fix what needs to be fixed. Sandbag, shot rock, but don't use sand, because sand's just going to blow out. It's going to wash away. I don't need to tell him. He's been around long enough to know what needs to be done.
There is a breach in that berm behind the cinema. Is that true? Is that correct?
A breach?
Or is it just overflowed?
Overflowed.
Okay. All right, so you're going to attack the list, and you're going to address this, see what that channel needs, and you're going to work closely with Aaron on it. Any commissioners, anything else?
Just a question. What's the difference between cease and desist and cease, desist, and correct? I saw the term on one of these things. This is titled cease and desist, but somewhere I saw cease, desist, and correct.
In this document or another document?
It was something that we handed out here.
Was it from the, I don't know if it was that, or was it the violation with 55 Kendracky Lane?
Yeah, it might have been.
On the,
And I'm just wondering, how does the distinction between them come about? And do we have the authority to make changes such that this would be titled and correct? I mean, he cease and desist from the planned project, but this now, because of the emergency status, which exists before us, can this also be cease desist on this, but correct? In other words, that would be, as we've seen with other things, unofficially an application, would it not? When you order correct, it requires an application?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, I don't know, I'm just asking.
We've only used cease and correct twice in the 20 years I've been here, okay? So one was for a sewer line that broke in a wetland, and one was for the 55 Kondraki driveway that fell in, okay? So it's for an emergency. That's how I was trained by DEP. It's for an emergency.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing being described here, emergency.
Okay.
We got to get this, we got more storms coming.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I don't think it will convey any more efficacy. In other words, he's under orders here to do this. I don't think changing the title he's got to do this ASAP. I don't think changing the title or reissuing a second cease order that would be called a cease and correct order would effectively change it much. He's got to do this. Are you concerned that if time lag, something will lag and he won't get on it and do it?
No, I wasn't concerned about that at all. I'm just concerned about why are we using that other terminology? Where did that come from? You said that we've only used it twice in the 20 years you've been here. I don't ever remember using that from the time before you were here. Where did that suddenly come up from?
It came up probably in the 2006 overhaul of the DEP model regulations. Maybe that's where it came up, because they started to realize, wait a minute, if a sewer main breaks, we cannot wait 2 weeks to get on it. We can't wait till the next wetland. We got to act. So that's where it came on. To what do? You can't wait till the next regular meeting.
You just
of the
described
commission.
what we're doing here tonight. That's my point. We are describing kind of an emergency thing we're wanting them to correct. And I'm just saying, maybe that's what DEP was trying to do, not just cease and desist. That's rather explicit in legal terms. Cease, desist, and correct is also explicit in the fact that the commission is ordering you to do something more than just stop what you're doing, fix it. That's the difference that I see in a distinction between the two.
Okay. I do want to point out that Mr. Prada has already taken some action. It's not enough, but he has immediately jumped on it when he got this order, or actually before he got the order, he jumped on it. In that intervening Christmas week, he got on it. There's more to be done, obviously.
More to be corrected, is that correct?
Yes, corrected. I don't personally.
Bingo, that's the only
I
point
would not
make.
recommend letting him start with his project again. I really, until we know what's going on with this, I really don't. I mean, what we're going on with how that stream flows, and what are we going to do about that stream, and what do we, he needs a dewatering plan, he needs a lot of things.
If I may say again, that stream's been there for how long?
Longer than us.
Right. And I think, if I say it correct, a lot of the overflow comes from Barnes Road still and travels on their North Main Street extension. Is it still the problems up there? Silted, retention, detention basins maybe from the years past and stuff like that, that still flows into that channel?
Well, before you went in there and disturbed all the vegetation, a lot of that vegetation, trees included, took a lot of the rainfall.
Right.
That was
Correct.
a watering hole for all that vegetation. Now that you've got, looks like a battlefield in there, it's just laying there dead. So I don't agree with Jim Hellman that we gave you you gave us an application, we agreed to it, you did nothing to that application. Nothing that I could see. I'd be ashamed if it was mine. I really would.
Oh, I did apologize to Aaron. I do owe you folks an apology. Yes.
Okay. All right, then we'll see you back here next month, I'm sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, he's going to stay for the next one on the agenda, the next item on the agenda.
What's the next? Well, what, 9:50? Well, I think he already knows at 9:50, he's got another issue from his previous application that needs some attention.
All right, can we close this?
Hang on a minute.
At 8:15, this cease and desist hearing is closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Vinny? Just,
I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Lisa Ann Peretta. I know that my husband, it's okay, will not say anything. My husband is not a man of excuses at all. Yes, but I am going to say it. My husband would never not come to a person and not apologize. I am not standing here tonight to make an excuse. But I will tell you that just a lot of stuff went on in December with the passing of my mother, and we've had a lot of things that went on, and I want to publicly apologize to you for that. My husband will never say anything because he would never want that to be seen as an excuse for any improper conduct. Well, I want to publicly apologize to you for that. And that's what went on almost the whole month of December, and my mom passed December 4th. So I want to tell you that personally, okay? It's not an excuse, sir, but I just want to apologize to you, and that's it.
I really am sorry about your mom's passing. And what my understanding is that your husband feels it's an act of God. And I think his failure to do everything that was
Yes.
supposed to be done, right?
Yeah.
But he certainly got the work done, right, during all that time, but he still didn't do what was required. So I don't think...
I'm not
his failure
addressing that.
is-
I'm addressing to publicly apologize
Thank
to
you,
you
and I'm
for not
thanking you.
apologizing
I'm
to you,
thanking you.
nor my husband. That was all.
Right.
And the rest of the council,
Right.
and I'm sure Aaron O'Hare here, personally wants to, let's face it, there's many, many things that have gone on in Wallingford with the coming of the rains. There were multiple businesses that got affected and actually got flooded out all across town, okay? So yes, it is an act of God. But the other thing here too is, I think as Wallingford residents and also business owners ourselves and live in here, I see that yes, everything has to come to a course where it needs to be addressed. But also, Mrs. O'Hare, I would just like to say to you also, I agree with you on things, but the other thing is I think it's important to work with developers, specifically in our town, to move projects forward. I understand about, reprimanding and all that sort of thing, but I just also feel, again, it's extremely important to work with developers that develop properties in Wallingford, whether it be residential or whether it be business. My husband's been a businessman and I also, for 30 years in Wallingford, developing properties. I'm not sure you could go back in our records and see types of violations of this sort. Unfortunately, my husband, he addressed the council today, but I would also like to address you and say, have mercy and grace on people also. Nobody's trying to do anything against you or your commission at all, but we are asking that you work with people in your town, and that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
All set?
I'd just like to say that none of this would have happened if he just did what he was supposed to. So I think if he does do what he's supposed to, and then he can, after it's all completed, that's why a cease and desist until the work is completed would be the logical step, because then we'll know all the steps, because as he was talking, if you play the tape back, he said, well, I can do some of these or whatever, but get the list done to the satisfaction of Aaron and your commission, and then he can start. Winter's coming, frost is in the ground, you're gonna get more runoff than ever and less drainage. So, and then we're gonna hit the spring rain. Should this thing just keep moving ahead, and unless we have some type of assurance from engineers that this is going to work, I don't feel comfortable. And I could tell you the cinema's been there almost 20 years, and we never had to shovel mud out of it. So this is really, really scary. And I don't know how many more times we could take a hit. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron, there was another item on the agenda, which is it's not an application, it's 950 North Main Street, which happens to be Mr. Paredes also. We got some erosion on, how long ago, 10-year-old park, is it 10-year-old property?
About 19.
15?
19 years.
9-5. So, Aaron, you just need to clean this up and fix this up also?
Yes.
nothing-
There's a pipe there at the end of that channel that seems to be covered over from the years, that needs to be excavated, an overflow pipe, which would take care of the overflowing at the end of the channel. It's kind of a high-level overflow, level pipe from the end of the channel into the detention pond.
Of course, that also was added to the
Correct.
material. All right, so what's the issue here? You're just going to correct it?
Yes. Mr. Peretta indicated to me that maybe an engineer has to look at something. It wasn't
I don't
going
think
into the basin right or something there. I don't know. They can do that. But if you look at the photograph of the giant swale that was built, I don't know, 15 years ago, whenever it was built, I noticed like all that vegetation's piled up there. It looks like somebody cut it, maybe in the fall or something, and failed to haul it away. They cut it for maintenance. They were doing maintenance. And then they failed to haul it away, so it ended up all in the channel, I believe, because it looks like it's all the same length of reed or whatever. But it's just dawned, so he'll maintain that, but it dawns on me, even if a developer or an owner of developed property is doing the proper maintenance that we have now in the stormwater management maintenance plans that we all approve, we approve it, planning and zoning approves their own version, that with these storms, they got to go out there more than twice a year. They got to go out there more frequently when we're getting hit with these big storms. I'm just saying that out loud. You can't do it just once or twice a year.
Okay, you know what you got to do.
Agreed.
Okay, anything else to come before us tonight? Nick, anything? Anybody? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman.
I have a question, technical. Regarding 8, the cease and desist order, is there supposed to be some actual disposition by the commission? Or affirmation or anything?
Nobody can hear her.
Kathy's saying, should you have voted to that the cease and desist shall remain? Yes, technically, good catch. Technically, you should have voted. I don't think there was a vote that it should remain, that you affirm the cease and desist order that was issued to Mr. Peretta, and you affirm it.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the cease and desist order on 86 Barnes Road, 950 North Main Street, Wallingford, remain in effect.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Is that 5?
It was unanimous aye.
Okay.
Then entertain a motion to adjourn, or did we get that far?
We didn't get that far. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
See you next month.
All righty.